Tonight in Austin, Big 12, it's a showdown. Two damn good teams. I think 10th and 11th this week in the polls. Baylor with a 6-game winning streak. Texas has been playing very well under Rodney Terry, and we're joined by Jeff Howe, the Horn in Austin, and also 247 Sports. Jeff, thanks for your time. I know Tennessee was going to be a tough win, and it was, Rick Barnes, but the Vols are also really damn good at number 2 in the country. So what about how, and we've discussed this with others, but that Rodney Terry this thing could have crashed and burned, even with the talent, and what he's done as a head coach since the Beard firing.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things at play, Smokey. I think one, when you look at the way this roster was put together, Rodney Terry was heavily involved in recruiting everybody. I mean, I think people need to understand, like, he ran recruiting for Chris Beard and probably on a day-to-day basis had a better idea of what was going on from a recruiting standpoint than Chris Beard did. So that's how much Chris Beard trusted Rodney Terry in terms of building the roster. So there was already the rapport there. Those guys respect Rodney Terry. And quite honestly, I think it boils down to they've gotten the most, other than the Tennessee game where he didn't shoot the ball all that well, they've gotten the most consistent stretch of basketball for Marcus Carr that he's played at Texas. If you look at him, Smokey, during and this is including the other night when he was 4 for 12, you look at the 13 games when Rodney Terry's been the interim head coach, Marcus Carr is averaging a little over 19 a game, shooting about 49% from the field, about 44% from three, and 84% from the foul line. So he's playing very consistent. They get a lot of scoring from their bench. I think that's one of the things that really stands out about the Texas team is how deep they are. And we know they're deep, but they get meaningful contributions night in, night out from their bench guys, whether it's Brock Cunningham gave them really big minutes in their win over Texas Tech with Christian Bishop and Dylan DeSue got in foul trouble. Sometimes Bishop has been that guy. Jabari Rice carried them offensively in the Tennessee game. So I think it's just a combination of, like I said, Rodney Terry, just the rapport that he's got with the players, what you've gotten from Marcus Carr, and then I think the bench depth and just guys understanding their roles. That part of it hasn't changed.
Jeff, this is a roster that, and I'm trying to double check, but I'll just say generally, because Baylor's won 7 in a row, has not beaten Baylor, they've not had that, and it's a veteran-laden team. How much does this team, Baylor, kind of stick in their craw about one hump that they have to get over if they're ready to take the next step? Yeah,
I think what's different about that, Paul, is just a quick turnaround. I don't know that they've had a lot of chance to sit around and think about Baylor because you go to Knoxville, you get home late or early Sunday, and then you got to turn around and play Baylor. So I don't know that they've had time to really sit and think about it other than the fact that they're playing a really good team. But I do know the guys that are still on this roster that played in the game in Waco last year. I can tell you this from talking to people around the program and even what some of those guys have said. They were embarrassed by the loss they had in Waco last year. They didn't play well, probably the worst game defensively they played last year. They couldn't keep pace with Baylor. And granted, Baylor was really good last year, but I think they were flat out embarrassed by the way they played in Waco last year. The game in Austin was closer, but I think when those guys sit down and start to think about Baylor, I do think it sticks in their craw again, but I think it goes back more to not necessarily the run that Baylor's had against Texas, but really, that loss in Waco last year was really a sticking point for them.
So, Jeff, by my count, Texas has 10 regular season games remaining. I believe that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 10 regular season games remaining. Only 2 of those are not against top 15 teams. That is life in the Big 12, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking about this today, Craig. Every team in the Big 12 kind of had that 3 to 4 game stretch where, either you don't play well or you're playing good teams or things just don't break right for you, and you can go through that tough stretch. Baylor had theirs at the beginning of conference play. Kansas, for example, just had theirs. And I just get the feeling like Texas is going to go through theirs. And the thing I would tell Texas fans, look, Texas could go 0-4 in this stretch, and the stretch is at Tennessee, home against Baylor, at K-State, at Kansas for the next 4 games or the next 3 games. You could go 0-4 in that stretch and still wind up at the end of this thing being a team that can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. That's just the caliber of opponent you're playing right now. And, Craig, in those last 10, you'll play Baylor twice and you'll play Kansas twice. You go to Lubbock. It's not an easy schedule. You'll go to Fort Worth. Not an easy schedule at all. But, I think the fact that this is where you talk about a veteran team, a team that understands the grind. Marcus Carr, Timmy Allen, even though those guys have been through a year, Brock Cunningham's been here for a while. Those guys understand what the night in, night out grind is in the Big 12. And then, I think adding the guys that they added in the portal, Tyrese Hunter also knows what a grind this league is from his year at Iowa State. And Jabari Rice played a lot of high-level basketball at New Mexico State, big-time games in a conference tournament, won an NCAA tournament game. So I think this is really where all the talk about a veteran roster, it really needs to be at the forefront, because if it's not, you could be in a situation where you host West Virginia on February 11th. Even though you could still be a really good team, you could go into that game against West Virginia on February 11th on a 4-game losing streak. Yeah,
then let me just clarify. 3 of those last 10 games are not against top 15, but Texas just played number 4 on the road. They'll play 11 tonight, then at 7, at 8, and then you get the West Virginia Tech Oklahoma swing. They're not ranked right now, but then close out the year, number 13 at home, at number 11, at number 15, and number 8 at home. So that's just incredible. But just clarifying there.
Yeah, but any way you slice it, Craig, you can look at anybody's schedule in this league. And, there's a reason why it's the best basketball league in the country. There are no nights off. There are no gimme games in this league. And I think you look at the Big 12 SEC Challenge. I mean, we know Oklahoma's had their struggles, and they ran Alabama out of the gym on Saturday. So it is a grind in this league.
So Tyrese Hunter obviously was an immediate, as a hell of a pickup. And do you feel like he's averaging about, 10 points a game? That's what he averaged at Iowa State, but he seems like he's more explosive than that. I know when you have other guys who put up points like Carr, et cetera, you got to kind of find your way. Like Keontae George, a younger version, has been able to do at Baylor. He seems to, and Baylor sure hopes not, but he seems to kind of be due for one of those games.
What's interesting about that, Smokey, is you look at Tyrese Hunter under Chris Beard, and then these 13 games under Rodney Terry. If you look at his numbers and Marcus Carr's numbers, they've almost flipped. In other words, Hunter, those first games under Chris Beard, I think he was averaging like around 15, 16 points a game. His assist numbers were down. Marcus Carr's assist numbers were up. He was averaging about an assist and a half more per game than he is right now. But his scoring numbers were down. These last 13 games, I just ran down Marcus Carr's number. Tyrese Hunter, you're not getting the scoring production, and he struggles, to consistently shoot the ball. But his assist numbers are really good. His turnovers have been down. So he's playing smart basketball. The thing with him, Smokey, that they got to figure out, and they haven't figured it out, all year long, even going back to, I think this really started, go all the way back to the Gonzaga game. The Gonzaga game was in the middle of November. He left that game with some cramping issues. And other than maybe, the first kind of that late December swing where, they were against Louisiana and A&M Commerce at home and then at Oklahoma on New Year's Eve, other than that little 3-game stretch right there, he's dealt with cramping issues the entire year, and they haven't really figured out why it's happening, what the trigger is. They've tried different diets, hydration, a lot of different things, and he's really struggling with the cramps. So I think the biggest thing, Smokey, if he's going to have one of those type of games, I think it's just being available on the floor. Now, the training staff, like I said, they're working overtime trying to get this thing figured out, but it's been really bizarre to see him deal with these cramping issues that have really plagued him that he didn't deal with in Ames last year.
Jeff, I know that the administration obviously would love to keep Rodney Terry and everything go well for them to not even have to really have a coaching search. They're probably going to, because there's large swaths of the alumni that are going to want them to call people like John Calipari and all that. But how do you feel the fans are taking to Rodney Terry through this stretch? And if at the end of all this, if Chris Del Conte comes and says, look, we're not changing a thing, we're rolling with Rodney, do you think they would be happy with that?
I think they would be happy with it at the end if that's how it ends up, depending on how the season finishes. If Rodney Terry, let's just look down the road. If he gets this team to forget the Final Four, if he gets them to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament, that's a place Texas hasn't been since 2008. Like, that's how long it's been since Texas has played in the Sweet 16 game. So if you just got to that point, he'd make a really strong case to be the head coach over the long haul. I do agree with you, Paul. These coaching searches, and let's just be clear. And I think you guys know this when you're talking about the head basketball coach of a place like Texas. The AD only runs that to a certain extent. You got people, back channeling things and making different calls. That's where the John Calipari report came from. What we've heard behind the scenes. It's most likely there's a 99% chance it would be a no from Jay Wright, but he's a free agent. You kind of have to make that call and at least hear him tell you no. So I think there are some avenues Texas is going to go down, but this fan base, they have really grown. Rodney Terry has really grown on them, and I think there's a great level of respect given the position he was put in, how he came into the job. And, Smokey, going back to your original point, it's the fact that it hasn't completely come off the rails. And you're in a position now where even if you struggle during these next 3 games, you still got a chance to put yourself in a position the back half of conference play to be in a position to be a top 4 seed in the tournament and get yourself some favorable matchups and maybe get to that second weekend. And once you get to that second weekend, who knows what happens at that point. So, but this fan base, I think they're going to be forever indebted to Rodney Terry just for being able to step in the middle of a really difficult situation, a situation where there is no manual, there is no blueprint on how to handle that, and keeping this thing on the tracks to where you're heading into the month of February still really in the thick of it.
With Kansas State playing Kansas, there's a chance that they could end up 6-3, and of course they could also win that game. Isn't that coming up like a quick turnaround with that one? Obviously, Iowa State coming off their loss to Missouri. That's a non-conference game, but this is a huge game. Texas could either be a couple of games ahead of Baylor, plus a win, or Baylor could have started 0-3 if they win tonight. Could be by sometime tonight or this week at the top of the standings, tied with somebody at 0-3. Should be. It's kind of a tweener game as far as the standings at the top. Jeff, thank you very much. We appreciate it. When do the Horns start spring drills?
I will probably get a start date on that on Wednesday. Haven't heard. We know the spring game is going to be on April 15th, but they're already going through winter conditioning. No, I don't know if Arch Manning has lost and found his ID again. I don't know if he's in possession of it, but never a dull moment covering this football program. But no, everybody's really excited. It should be a quiet Wednesday for Texas. 90% of their work was done in December, but it's full steam ahead. And, just looking forward to whenever spring practice starts.
I have a theory on Arch Manning's ID. I think he's trying to have a rom-com meet cute. And that's what he's trying to do. You ever watch a romantic comedy, Smokey? There's some kind of stupid
rom-com. I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah, the romantic comedy. Like they have a little meet cute where it's not just they're like meeting in the like somebody introduced them. It's like they've got to run into each other on the street or somebody's got to spill something on them. He's just dropping his ID, hoping some hot chick.
I don't think he has to do that, Paul.
I know, but I don't think
Austin.
he has to. I think he wants to.
Yeah. I don't know about the rom-com, but I do know after watching the preview again during the AFC Championship game, I'm all about Cocaine Bear. I don't know about you guys,
right.
but I'm saddled up and ready to ride with Cocaine Bear when it comes out.
That one guy's body's been shredded. Thanks for your time, Jeff. Appreciate you, buddy.
Anytime, guys.
I saw the